Okay.
So you have two visiting day Sundays, Tisha B'Av and Shabbos, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point. They should make visiting day on whatever. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So now we're in the middle of the sugya of when you're supposed to get married. All right. So we said really supposed to get married on a Wednesday night. In Ba'inus, you can even move it back to Monday night. What do we say the Ainus is? If either his father dies or her mother dies, right? So then they have to give. They have to get the marriage over with quickly, and then they have Sheva brachos, and then they go back to Sheva. Sort of like Yom Tov, right? If somebody loses a relative on Chol Hamoed, so what do? You finish off the Yom Tov first, right? And then Aveilus starts. Correct? So that's basically what it is. Now, I think anybody remember how it goes under a chuppah? The father, when they give the kais to drink to the Chassan and Kallah, how does it go? The father gives the kais to the Chassan, and then who gives it to the Kallah?
They switch over. Kiddushin is the father of the Chassan and the mother of the Chassan. Nisuin is the father of the Kallah.
No. I think they swap it. They swap
the other way around. Sorry, yeah. The father of the Chassan, the mother of the Kallah, then the father of the Kallah, the mother of the Chassan.
So I'm wondering if that has to do with this Gemara. Right? Because we're saying after the father of the Chassan and the mother of the Kallah. Right?
No, that's because they take care of them.
Exactly. So I just wonder why for the Kiddushin, that's why it goes. And then the Nisuin, you just give it to the Aga parents, maybe. I don't know, the Aga, whatever. I don't know. Just a thought. Did anybody come across anything like that?
No.
Okay, whatever. Okay. Anyways, so let's see. We're 5 lines down from the top, yeah? The dafka of Chassan and Kallah. So dafka, if the father of the Chassan was nifter, or the mother of the Kallah, the leka inish the tarach lahu, because then there's nobody to make the wedding. Avel ifcha, but it happened in the opposite, meaning the mother of the Chassan and the father of the Kallah, then we're not going to push it off because they weren't really involved in it anyways, right? Yeah. And then you have the long Taisa stuff avel ifcha that discusses, like, the bottom line is, what do you do? So when do you get married? So then when do they get married? So they sit Shiva first, right? Then when can they get married? Do they have to wait for Shloshim? Do they wait for the year? Right? So depending on if they have kids or not. So if he doesn't have kids, so the mitzvah pruvu is important, so you can get married right away. Right? But if not, then you would wait. Okay, so that's the Taisus, that's the long Taisus. Yeah, now, another Taisus that we had that was Kedai that we missed yesterday. So it says Taisus Bilas Mitzvah. Why is it called Bias Mitzvah, right? Again, what does the Gemara say? They get married, they have Bias Mitzvah, right?
Which Taisus?
The Taisus Bilas Mitzvah.
On Gimel and Beis?
On Dalet Amud. Right? Right. Then what happens is, meaning what happened? Let's just run it through again. They do the chasana. They get to sleep together. Then they do the levaya. Then the Sheva brachos. Then and then the Gemara doesn't say that part. Rashi says that part. Like the Gemara doesn't say when the levaya is. Right. The Gemara on the top line says they get married. They have bias mitzvah, Pirish. Then Rashi says they bury the mace right away, right? And then they have Sheva brachos and then Shiva. So Rashi, the Taisus, is supposed to read the Taisus bilas mitzvah. Why is it called the bilas mitzvah? Kari la bilas mitzvah mishum desiv ki bayalecha isecha. Right? You're making to a bayal vamrinon, and this is an important zach. Where does a woman have a bris? Where does a woman get a bris from? Peretz is not on, but if you listen to this, you got a Sheva brachos right here, right? Vamrinon, Right? Ein isha karesses bris elon isha isa isa kli. I don't know if you could say this though, right? A woman depends how many drinks he has, right? Or maybe you have to give the ladies the drinks for this one. But anyway, so ein isha karesses bris elon isha isa isa kli. Only for somebody that makes her a kliva. So the way she's being kairas bris is by having a bia with her husband. They will hopefully be connected and have children, and that's why it's called bias mitzvah. It's almost like a bris. It's almost like that's the woman's version of a bris, right? I think that's what Taisus means.
See, isn't there a Taisus somewhere else? Isn't there a Taisus somewhere else that says that that's the shot why Kohen Gadol can only have a
basula?
What's it called? A basula? Because there has to be this connection that they have is only the guy with basula, the first person.
Is it Taisus says that? I don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah.
He says shot and why. I don't know if it's Taisus. Shanim. He says shot why. Why does it matter that the Kohen Gadol has a basula?
I hear. Oh, so okay, whatever. So, but that's anyway. So that's what he's saying. That's why it's called bias mitzvah.
I don't understand what's the shot. What's the kasha?
Just why is it called bias mitzvah? Why
because
is it
we can kind of prove it. End the story.
Is you're not. First of all, you're not. The Gemara says that the first bia you can't become pregnant.
You can't become, and she has no mitzvah puruvu anyway.
It's not on her. It's on him.
Good, but the first bia, there's no.
What Tais was talking about her for?
But it says boil bilas mitzvah. Talk about the chassan.
He's talking about. Then the rest of the Tais talks about the lady.
I don't understand what bothering Tais is.
No, but that's because of that. They're able to be Mekayim Pruruvu. At least he is.
It's the haskalah to be Mekayim Pruruvu. What's the title?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What's Taisus asking?
Why is it called mitzvah? Bias mitzvah. There's no
because
mitzvah.
The man could be Mekayim Pruruvu. He's starting to be Mekayim Pruruvu.
So that's essentially what Taisus is
He
saying.
didn't.
So what's the kasha?
There's no kasha. He's just explaining the lashon of bias mitzvah.
Something's bothering Taisus.
Yeah,
it says bias mitzvah. Yeah.
Why is it called the bias mitzvah?
He ain't making a brach on a cheese Danish. Why is it called bias mitzvah? He ain't benching lulavs. Why is it called bias mitzvah?
Why is he having beer? Because he has to be Mekayim mitzvah.
It's
Good,
the
so
only beer that's not Mekayim Pruruvu.
That's right, exactly, Gershon.
That's
Yaakov, I wanted to say, not that I want to say different than Taisus. This is the first time that he and she are both Mekayim the mitzvah of Ainah. Why doesn't Taisus just say that? Now he's Mekayim the mitzvah of Ainah. Why doesn't he say that, Taisus? That he's being Mekayim the fellow. Yeah?
I hear. Yeah. I hear. Is that enough to call it a mitzvah? I guess you're right. Well, I have a teretz. Oina is a lav. We call it a mitzvah, but it's really a lav. Meaning, if you withhold it, you're over on a lav. So it's not a mitzvah. It's not a, how do you say it? Let's say it in the yeshiva. It's not a kumbaseh. It's not a kumbaseh. Right? It's not a kumbaseh. So maybe that's why you wouldn't call it a bias mitzvah. That maybe I could say the teretz. Yeah, but anyway, the lumdus just comes out in the Keshubos.
Anyway, Shas Kutten.
That's right. Anyway, so that was an interesting Taisus that she's caressed his bris that way. Anyways, I think there's a Taisus in Avodah Zaros, Akiva, something like that also, that she's caressed his bris with something like that. Either way.
Does she have a chiv to be caressed his bris? I'm saying, like, what?
Well, she has a chiv to be there for her husband, that they should have children.
There's nothing to do with bris.
It has, right, but no, I don't think bris means like it's a deal. They're coming to a deal, right? Anyways, so we're saying v'dafka of it back in the Gemara. So 6 lines down from the top. 5 lines down from the top. V'dafka of shel Chassan ha'im shel Kallah. Deleke inish the tarachlu. There's nobody to work with them. If chalai, but if then you do the burial. Then the question is, like that's what said the Taisus, when exactly is the Chassan? That the Gemara doesn't say. Right, but you do the burial first, then it would depend when you make the Chassan. Fine. Omar Raf from Bar Papa, Omar Rav Chisda Loishon Availus and Mayim Al Gabi Basa. That's only if they didn't yet put the water on top of the meat. But if they did not put the water on top of the meat, meaning they didn't start preparing the meat, then misdaven, you'll be able to sell the meat. Meaning once you put water on top of meat, that's it. The meat's not sellable. So therefore, we're going to make the suda before they get married, right? Before they do the burial. But if you didn't yet take them, then sell it. Amar Rava ubekrach. If it's in a city, even if you did put the water, you could sell it because there's always in the city. There's always somebody that's going to be willing to buy any type of meat. And in a village, I think that's how we say it, right? Small town. Even if you didn't put the mayim on top of the basar, it's not going to be sold, right? Meaning because it's not going to be easy to get rid of meat in a small town. They don't have such musagim like in the big cities, so it's going to be easy not going to be easy to push the meat. Okay, so now what? So we're saying that if you add water to the meat, then you get married before the burial. But if you don't add water to the meat, then not. But then we have two shittas and says, well, this din doesn't apply to big cities and it doesn't apply to small cities. Okay, so where does it apply? So that's the Gemara asks. Where's the case of Rav Chisda where it depends on whether you put water onto the meat or not? So Rav Ashi going Mata Machsia. It's the city called Mata Machsia, the Mafka Mikrach or Mafka Mikfar. So we're talking about what do you call it? Mid-sized city? I don't know. There's a better word for that. Whatever. Like just suburbs or something like that. I mean, it's somewhere in between a big city and a small city. So if you put the water on the meat, you won't be able to get rid of it. But if you don't, then you will be able to get rid of it. It's just a fact. I don't know if anybody finds this fascinating. Because you're going to lose your meat, therefore, you put the parent away and you make a ganze chasana, so because you're going to lose a few $100 or whatever. I mean, it's a fascinating thing, right? It seems like it's all based. Not saying here because you got to be mekayim the mitzvah, pruravuz, reason why
they didn't have the means. They didn't have the means.
Good news, so they won't have
sustenance. This was sustenance for them.
It's Yaakov.
No,
Shaktu is the biggest side, though.
Yeah.
It comes back to Shaktu. If they can't afford to redo this, it's going to be a very depleted wedding, and it ruins the idea of Shaktu.
Yeah.
Where in the Torah does it say that you're supposed to push away Aveilus we're supposed to push away Aveilus?
I would venture to say this ties into Shalom bias.
I don't know.
Some say that.
Shas is replete with ideas of that we do a lot for Shalom bias. What does that mean?
Yeah, some say that.
So that's the pshat.
Here, don't you have a bigger problem here? You have Aninos Deraisa.
Right.
How are they allowed to?
Aninas, you're not allowed to get married mitzad Aninas. You're not allowed to do a bia mitzad Aninas.
Oh, you're not.
All of it.
Well, that we're gonna see. We're gonna see.
I thought you're allowed to get married, but you're not allowed to do a bia.
Well, but here it says you do anyway. But how are you allowed to get married?
You're still allowed to get married.
The marriage is pruruvu.
You could still get married without, according to some.
No, but okay, but anyway,
without that.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go. But it's an interesting, Akiva, that's what you're saying. It's a fascinating thing. You push off the burial simply because you spent a lot of money on a chasana.
I don't think it's simple. I think Shaktu is a big yesod. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have a takana.
It's 100%. It's a big yesod. And you know where I'm going to go with this? I'm going to go with this. So you don't sit by somebody's chasana on your phone, or maybe not make a siyum on and do a Daf Yomi by somebody's chasana. But we're not. I'm saying somebody's bachasana. They spent a lot of money. We would push off a levaya for it. So don't come there and whatever. That's whatever. That was my thought. I'm gonna leave it right there.
Rav Hutner said it good, but again, it's fine.
That what?
Rav Hutner said it good.
What do you say?
He told me Reb Shlomo was still a bacha, so it's way
Peretz,
back.
you just missed it, Peretz. Yeah.
So there was another bacha from Chaim Berlin with a sefer out by the Suda. So he said, Shlomo, geh zog in the bacha as du tanzmin, aber will lernen soll so gehen zu beis Mensch, du tanzmin. There's a Chassan Kallah, du tanzmin. Man lernt nicht, du tanzmin.
Very good. Right. Yeah. That's, for those that don't speak Yiddish, you want to say it
Rav Hutner said to him, Shlomo, I'm saying his name because that's Rav Hutner, that's the meikel. He said, Shlomo, go tell this bacher that it's a chasna and you dance by a chasna. You don't sit with a sefer by a chasna. If you want to learn, go to Beis Medrash. Here you dance.
Yeah,
In front of a chassan Kallah, you dance.
Yeah. That's that's what you do. Anyways, okay. So when I say you,
we finished Worcester. You can hit record.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So let's see. So the Tani comes say the Rav Chisda.
Yaakov, how does this Gemara fit in with the ads for $20,000 plots on Zayson? How does this fit in exactly?
I don't know. Does it come with food? Anyways, Tani comes say the Rav Chisda. Right, so we just get a freebie for this here. We have a braysa like a chisda, because somebody who has his bread baked, the tivchay tavuach, and the meat is shechted, the yainoi mazog, and his wine is already mixed. The nasan mayim agabi basar, and they put the water on the basar. That's the part that's like what Rav Chisda said. Umeis aviv shel Chassan, imesh shel Kallah. Machnisin as a meis l'cheder. You put the mace into a room. V'es Chassan as a Kallah l'chuppah. Uboyel bilas mitzvah. Upayresh. Then they separate from each other. Then they do the levaya, which for whatever reason the Gemara doesn't say. I guess it's self-understood. Then Sheva brachos. I mean, if I was reading this Gemara straight, I would think that the levaya is after the Sheva brachos. But I'm not necessarily the brightest bulb in the chandelier. But that's what I would think based on the Gemara. It doesn't say, it says noyik Shivas Yimei Mishnah and then Shivas Yimei Aveilus. Okay, but that's not Rashi is clear.
The Ram says that you do the levaya now because once they're married, it's chal v'simcha already, so you can't push it off with Aveilus. So just do the levaya, and since the simcha is chal, yeah.
Interesting. Very good. Thank you.
You also have a body that's going to decompose, which is a little bit inconvenient.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That's why it couldn't be. It couldn't be that what I was thinking was correct. Yeah. So this Gemara is going to discuss this later. That all those days during Aveilus, he sleeps with the women and he sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the women, right? And then the same thing if you have a chupas nida, he sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the woman. And there's a major halacha to be learned out from this, which is that when it's a chupas nida, so there also be yichud by chupas nida. Why? Because since they've never been together physically, so we're afraid they're not going to be able to control themselves, right? So therefore, until they're, how come a regular nida? A regular nida is an ashes ish, essentially the halacha, right? When our wives are nidas, so why are we allowed to be miyachid with them? Paspasali, because we already were together, so maybe we control. But a chassan and kallah were never together. They're not allowed. So this is a yichud. So based on this, it's not enough to have one shomer. You need two shomer. Meaning you need two extra shomer. You need, because it says plural. He needs to sleep with the men. She needs to sleep with the women. Therefore, it needs to be at least two shomrim, one boy, one girl. That's what's mashma. But Chazon Ish already says it doesn't have to be one boy, one girl. It's got to be two kids. It could be at least two kids. So what a lot of people do is a lot of times, and nowadays with the birth control pills, it's not so common to have chupas nida. But if you do have it, so what they do is they need to sleep in an apartment with at least two people, because based on the terminology of this Gemara, right? Fine. If there's a
chuppahs needed today, so then the whole Shabbos is still sleeping.
Yes, they're usually sleeping in somebody else's house when the doors have to be open to the bedrooms too, not fully open, but open. Otherwise it's a yichud. Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, that's the way it is. Fine. But we don't keep tachshitin away from a kallah every 30 days. In either situation, you do not. The first bia cannot take place on Erev Shabbos and not on Motzai Shabbos either.
Can I just ask a somewhat tangential question? Person uses contraception, so these people have a chiyuv to be puruvu. So how are they having relations the first time with contraception? If there's an issue of puruvu.
What do you say? I don't understand what you're asking.
Aren't they supposed to have the opportunity to have puruvu? We don't let them use contraception after that first night, right? I
right?
assume.
I mean, nowadays they do. Nowadays
Okay.
there's a lot of coolers, but
Okay, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about. I don't know. I just don't understand. I
honestly,
was
what
going
does
to
that have
say
to do with this? So
conceptually,
what
but
does that have
that
to do with
sounds like
this?
a pun. What?
What does that have to do with the sugya?
Well, that's what I said. It's tangential.
No, okay. So I think we'll discuss it when we get to the whole sugya. Yeah, but anyways, okay. So let's see. So Amar Mar, who Yashem ben Anashim, he Shena ben Anashim. He sleeps with the men. She sleeps with the women. Sayel Rav Yochanan. Damer Rav Yochanan. Aval Bishamru ein Aveilus b'mayid. Even though there's no Aveilus b'mayid, Aval Dvarim shel Tzina noyid. But things that are b'tzina, we are noyid. Right? Meaning, well, how do we learn this out from here? Because they're not allowed to be together. Right? Now, being together is Aveilus b'tzina. Right? Being together is Aveilus b'tzina. So even though they're not keeping Aveilus, right? They're not keeping Aveilus. They have Shivas Yimei Mishta. They're in the middle of Sheva brachos. They're not keeping any Aveilus. Yet they are not allowed to sleep in the same room, which we'll get to why that is. Why is every couple not? Why does every couple sleep together in the same? And you never heard of a couple separating when they're in Shiva, right? But the reason is, so we're saying that Aveilus is the same as Yom Tif. So that's how we know that on Yom Tif, like if somebody's relative is Niftar, Cholamayid, so Aveilus B'tzina, which is basically learning Torah and relations, is not allowed. That's how we know, right? Now, and then the second Taisus up from the bottom, so Taisus proves from Psukim that Sheva brachos has a din Yom Tif. A lot of couples are not aware of this. Right? A lot of couples are not aware that Sheva brachos, they're supposed to dress in Yom Tov Tika Begadim. There's an Isser Malacha on them for Cholamayid. It's like Cholamayid, or at least like Yom Tov, but it's a chashuv thing. The Sheva brachos. That's based on the Taisus right here. Yeah, fine. So Darash Reb Yosef. Darash Yosef Breit Rav Mishmei the Rav. Lo Shanu Ela Shaloi Baal. When did we say that they're not allowed to sleep in the same room, meaning he has to sleep with the men, she with the women? That's when there was no bia of a baal. But if they did have bia, like we were saying before, then his wife can be together with him. Now, what is this talking about? Right? So in this case, we're talking about where there's a bia, right? We said they get married, they have a bia, and then they have to, and then it says they have to separate. Right? It says he sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the woman. So why? They had bia. So Gemara answers, that part is only going on if she becomes a nida. If she becomes a nida, like we said, then there's an isser yichud on them, and because they never had a bia. Right? Meaning, but Aveilus, they can't be together even if they had a bia. The Gemara says, it says v'chein, which means that nida and Aveilus is the same thing. So on Amud Beis, the Gemara says, and if a woman of somebody's wife becomes a nida, v'loy baal, and they didn't have bia, so hu yashem ben anashim, v'ishta yishena ben anashim, so he sleeps with the men and she sleeps with the woman. So the Gemara says, Aveilus kilu leminida. Are you saying that Aveilus is more meikel than nida? Meaning not that it's more meikel, that people deal with Aveilus more meikel than nida? Meaning, by nida, we're gonna let them. I'm sorry, I'm saying the opposite. By nida, we're not gonna let them be together, unless they had a bia. But by Aveilus, right? By Aveilus, though, we're not gonna let them be together. So that means you're looking at Aveilus that it's more kal than meaning it's more kal in people's eyes than nida. Meaning we're not going to trust them by Aveilus, but we will trust them that they're going to keep Hilchos Nida. Any malacha that a woman does for her husband, right? Meaning to wash his feet and hands, all the stuff that doesn't go on anymore, right? But that's what it's referring to. Nida is a nida could do for her husband. She cannot pour his wine for him. She can't make his bed, which is a big tool in the place, exactly what that means, right? And so you look at the Taisvis, right? Meaning it doesn't mean from Taisvis' mashma to put on the sheets Somebody actually just asked this to me right before the share, to put on the sheets and to put on the all those type of things from Taisus Masha, that's mutter. That's like work. That's not a romantic thing. It really sounds like if you go to a fancy hotel, they have turn down service. They fluff the pillows and they put a mint on the pillow, and that would be what the Gemara is referring to. But to make the beds in the morning, she can make the husband's bed, right?
He's not in the room. He's not in the room.
No, even if he's in the room, he's not in the room. It's mutter. It's even if he's in the room. Even if he's in the room, to make the beds, right, to fluff up the pillows before he goes to sleep, that's what it's referring to. That's the way most places can say it. Not everybody says it, but that's what most places can say. But stam, to make the beds in the morning, that would be mutter. That's not called hatzos hamita. Right? But by Aveilus, we learn even though a person it can't force his wife to put on makeup, she could be meizig him the kais and set the beds and wash his hands. She's in the city for Peretz's wedding. Peretz is making a wedding.
I heard you're here.
You want to drink or something?
No, I heard you're here.
Your son was spending a good time.
I heard you're here. We came by.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. We still got visiting day here. Anyway, so and she could wash her hands, feet, and face. So you see that Aveilus is more chamer, right? So we say, so loikasha, meaning not more chamer, meaning people treat it more chamer. So when it's loikasha, kan ba'avelus didei, kan
She can wash his
ba'avelus
face.
What?
It says she can wash his face.
Yes. Yeah. What are you wondering that why does anybody do that nowadays? Is that what you're wondering, Harold?
I guess so.
Yeah. These are antiquated Gemaras right here that we're learning. We'll see more of it later in the Masechta. Yeah.
Mashiach, if you have 1 minute for Maisa.
Okay. Yeah.
And some of the fellows will very much appreciate it, and you'll hear it. There was a fellow used to be, who was in yeshiva many years ago, Mal Fodeman. So I met him a few times over the years. So when he was sitting shiva I heard he was sitting shiva for his father. I went to Menachem Avel about 10 years ago. So he told me his parents, every night they used to have a cocktail together. His father would mix the cocktails, the vodka tonic, I think he told me. The last year or two, his father had dementia. He was very old, and he had a lot of things wrong with him. Mamish didn't know where he was. But every night, his mother took over. She made the drinks, and she put the vodka tonic on a Q-tip and rubbed it into her husband's mouth every night.
You serious?
Till the end of his life. Yeah, it's a Gavaldik. It's such a romantic Maisa. It's unbelievable.
That's pretty. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
Told me
good.
that by the Shiva. Yeah.
Wow. Peretz is getting a lot of material here for yeah. Anyway, so whatever it is, you see that here that they treat Nida more chamer. People treat Nida more chamer. So then, of course, this anti-male teretz like kasha kan ba'avelus didei, kan ba'avelus dida. One is talking about when she's the avel, and one is talking about when he's the avel. Right? When he's the avel, then you gotta make sure, because he's not gonna behave. Right? When she's the avel, he may try to hit up on her. She's not gonna have any of it. Right? Same thing by Nida. When she's sick, when the woman is sick, there are less kulas for the husband to help her than when he's sick. Because when he's sick, he's down and out. He's not gonna hit her up because he's sick. But when she's sick, he might still try and hit up his wife. Right? So that's what the Gemara means here. So the Gemara says, it says the father of the Chassan or the mother of the Kallah. So it says both could be an Aveilus. You're saying, again, we were just saying that there's a difference. When he's an avel, we got to be more careful because the guys have less self-control, right? But the women, we don't have to be as careful. But it says that the mother of the Kallah could have died. So the Gemara says, Kikatani Ashara. That's going on the rest of the braysa. That's not going on this part of the braysa. Saying what it says, do we really differentiate in the severity between her Aveilus and his Aveilus. Vatanya Misha Meis Chamav. If his in-laws die, he cannot force his wife to put on makeup. What you do is you turn over his bed, and he keeps the Aveilus with her, which we'll get to. But now we don't do this nowadays of turning over the bed. We don't do kfiyas amita. The beds get turned over, right? But there, let's just finish first. And the same thing, if her in-laws die, meaning his parents, she's not allowed to put on makeup. She has to turn over her bed, and she's naig with him Aveilus. So you see, a spouse has to keep Aveilus with their spouse.
That's the old days. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, so now we will get to that, and we'll get to that, what happened exactly to this nowadays. So, but the bottom line is, you see that the severity of whether he's in Aveilus or she's in Aveilus makes no difference. So Tani, Aveilus today, right? So it says it's talking about Aveilus today. Who Yashem ben Anashim, Vishte Yashem ben Anashim. So the way we have to learn it is that, meaning we're changing the lashon of the braysa. By his Aveilus, he sleeps by the men and she sleeps with the woman. But by her Aveilus, you don't have to do that. So Gemara says, what do you mean? It says v'chein. So it seems like it's going to be the same. Because that's only going on the makeup, right? On the makeup part, they're not allowed to, then it's the same. But imay katani means with him. My love, imay b'mita, doesn't mean that they can sleep in the same bed. So our answer is like imay b'bayis. It's with him in the bias. In front of your wife, you have to be noyeg Aveilus. But not in front of her, you don't have to be noyeg Aveilus. So it's interesting. This din is brought in Shulchan Aruch that if you have a close relative who's sitting Shiva, so then the relatives have to keep Aveilus or some form of Aveilus till the motzai Shabbos, till the first motzai Shabbos. So it seems that I think the Ramah already brings it, or the Nosei bring it, that this is not nog anymore. This thing is not nog. Why? It's not exactly clear where it became not nog. It seems like if you're not living in the same house, so it's not like from this Gemara, it's not mamish in front of them, so you don't have to keep it. So it seems like it fell by the wayside. So it's not really kept anymore. The simple way out of it, the simple way out of this din is you ask the avel for mechila, and if the avel gives a mechila, then you certainly have no shayla.
He brings the
I
rich
think
one that says that they're marketing.
I think Rabbi Shechter, when his Rebbetzin was sitting Shiva, he didn't go to the Chassans. I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing in the
I think I
Shulchan
heard, I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's the din that's gone by. So yeah, somebody just got up from Shiva last week, and they said I sent them my papers. So they said, he's missing the thing about the relatives not having Aveilus with each other. I said it's in there. I said it's in the sheet. I said ask Mechila. I said, but anyways, we don't really know this anymore. It's not. But somebody by that Shiva got up and announced, everybody make sure your spouses keep Shiva with you and da da da. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? And say, find out if it's very nice. You saw it in the Gemara. I don't know. Maybe it was ahead in the Daf at face, but I don't know. Anyways,
we're assuming that the spouse is meikel.
No, even without mechila, it doesn't seem to be nog. But in order to get around any sort of shaila, if the spouse says they're meikel, then they're meikel. Right? So then Rav Ashi says, yeah, mi kamadamas avelus tahachal avelus da'ama. Can you really compare? Why are you asking questions from the standard avelus to the avelus here? Avelus da'ama chomer. Regular avelus is very strict, and people keep it. They lost a relative. But they're not going to be mezalzel. Aveilus da'achal. But here, even the kilu rabbanon asilus azulebe. Since the rabbanon would be very meikel with this, meaning they let the guy get married and be together with his wife, which is mamish aser. They let that happen before the Aveilus. And the Chacham were afraid that the whole Aveilus is going to be considered Kallah in their eyes. So therefore, that's why the husband and wife can't sit together in the same room. But you don't. But normally, people treat Aveilus very, very Chacham. So the Gemara says, my Kula. What is the kula here? That he's boil mitzvah and then he's pirish. The reason is because Aveilus didn't start yet, because he's an einin though, right? But they didn't start since there's no burial, there's no Aveilus. This comes up a lot also. People came up with the Naftali liner, right? That after Yom Tov, he found out about the Petira before he took a shower, right? So then there are parts, the Rambam holds, and the Mechaber brings it, that an Einin could shower. An Einin could shower before the Levaya, because it's only a din in Aveilus, not an Aninus, right?
It didn't happen to me. You told me beforehand not to turn my phone on. Take a shower first.
No, but then one time you turned on. That was after Shabbos by your father.
That was after Shabbos by my father, not Yom Tov. Yeah.
Yeah, Yom Tov, okay.
Well, I have Kallah problems.
Ma'alacha, the Ramah holds that a person, if he knows that somebody's very sick after Shabbos, he should just go take a shower.
They don't weigh in on it, but why? I don't see any reason why you're not mechuyev to turn on your phone right away to find out a pursuit or raw. You could take care of what you need to take care of and then turn it on. There's no.
Called me Erev Pesach and said, you're going to sound cold, but I should trust you. Just take a shower before you turn your phone. My mother was very sick in the hospital. Before you turn your phone on, after Yom Tov, take a shower. That's what I did.
Well, Naftali, you should listen to me well. You got back at him. You've asked him now 797 shilas about Aveilus in the year.
Yes. I shouldn't have. That was the stupidest answer to give, right? And he said, "Oh, this guy must know what he's talking about." Oh, yeah. Anyways, so again,
I block you every single time we get closer to Yom Tov and you start posting, the shower text. That's what I do also. I preempt it as well.
Smart idea, Akiva. Smart idea. But anyway, so Hassam b'shum delay chalav Aveilus there. It's not because it's kal. The Aveilus didn't start. Ilu Rabbi Eliezer, Hachiyatzim Pesach Habayis. According to Rabbi Eliezer, when does it start? When you leave the house. When the mace leaves the house, right? Ilu Rabbi Yeshua Hachiyustam Magal. According to Rabbi Yeshua, it's until they close over the grave, right? That also has a lot of halachic ramifications. Because somebody, when they're flying to Eretz Yisrael for the Kvura and the people are not flying, right? So it depends who you go with. If you go like Rabbi Yeshua, that whole Eretz Yisrael shal doesn't apply because the Aveilus doesn't start for everybody until the grave is covered. But if you go with Rabbi Eliezer, once you leave the house and then the Aveilus starts, okay, that's another thing. So the reason why it's very kal is because they're noyeg Sheva brachos, v'achagach noyeg Shivas Yimei Aveilus, and then Aveilus. So since Sheva brachos came first, now they've already been. The mace is already buried a week almost, and it's already much easier to be meikel on the rest of Shiva because it's already not your standard Shiva. So there we're concerned that they're not going to take it serious. So therefore he has to sleep with the man and she has to sleep with the woman. Right, but in your standard Shiva, you don't have to do this, which is why the Hanhagi is. That's why. I mean, you never heard of couples. Well, sometimes if you have a lot of family members, so the women go home to sleep and the men stay in the house, or the opposite, right? But that's not al halacha, right? So it is the taka shaila. Can the couple sleep in the same bed? What happens is when you get older, so a lot of people they'll get it once they're not post neither, so they'll get one bed, a king size bed, or whatever it is, right? Now, one of them has to sit Shiva. So now they're not supposed to sleep in the same bed. So now then they have to they have to figure out a way how to do this. Anyways, okay, so we'll stop here. And
what time is Shia the rest of the week? I got confused.
7 to they moved up Mincha. So tomorrow it's only gonna get tomorrow. Tuesday's gonna be at the Chassan of Ezra Hashem. And then Wednesday, Thursday is going to be debatable because there'll be a lot of traveling with all the traveling with the Sheva.
So
tomorrow 7:20.
Tiago, are you doing the Daf Tuesday at the Chassan as well?
Yes, we're making the Siyam and then the Daf, which we just even though we just spoke against it, but okay, the Baal Simcha. Yeah. Anyways.
I don't mind the Daf so much. The Siyam part still bothers me.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Why can't we do the Daf and you could earlier and you don't have to disturb?
I'm gonna be at that Chassan already from 5. I don't mind. It's like all total bittles, man, bittel everything from after the chuppah. There's no mitzvah to twiddle your thumbs and sit in there while they take pictures and all that chazarai.
What time are you going to be there for?
I'll be there probably. I'll be there 4:30. I don't even know what time I'll be there.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, there's the chef.
Shika.
All
Gonna
right.
try to keep you busy.
I hear. All right. Anyways, fine. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
David Kirschbaum, you on? You here? Is he on, or is it just you left it on?